Quentin Meillassoux' Time Without Becoming is a concise but significant exposition of the central arguments developed in his speculative materialist philosophy. The book revisits and expands key concepts from after finitude, particularly correlationism, ancestrality, factuality, and hyperchaos. Meillassoux seeks to overcome the anti-realist tendencies of contemporary philosophy and re-establish the possibility of thinking an absolute reality independent of human consciousness. The first section introduces correlationism, which Meillassoux identifies as the dominant tendency in modern philosophy. Correlationism maintains that reality can only be known in its relation to human thought, and being cannot be conceived independently of subjective access. Whether it is transcendental philosophy, phenomenology, or postmodern thought, the assumption remains that thought and world are inseparable. Meillassoux argues that this position ultimately prevents philosophy from accessing reality in itself. The second section develops the problem of ancestrality through the notion of the archae-fossil. Scientific statements concerning events that occurred before the emergence of life, such as the formation of the earth or the age of the universe, pose a challenge to correlationism. If all reality is correlated with thought, how can science meaningfully describe a time before any thinking subject existed? Meillassoux contends that correlationism cannot adequately account for ancestral statements and thereby undermines the realist meaning of scientific discourse. The third section introduces the principle of factuality, Meillassoux' central philosophical innovation. Everything that exists is radically contingent because no being possesses an ultimate reason for its existence. However, contingency itself is necessary. The absence of sufficient reason is not merely a fact but an absolute principle. Through this argument, Meillassoux claims to refute correlationism and establish access to an absolute reality grounded in universal contingency. The fourth section elaborates the concept of hyperchaos, a form of absolute time characterized by unrestricted contingency. Unlike ordinary notions of chaos or becoming, hyperchaos is capable of transforming or abolishing not only things but also the laws governing them. Natural laws possess no intrinsic necessity and may change without reason. Consequently, reality is governed by a time more fundamental than physical processes themselves. The final section examines the principle of non-contradiction. Meillassoux argues that contradiction is impossible because a contradictory being would be necessary and incapable of genuine change. Non-contradiction therefore becomes a necessary condition of contingency. The lecture concludes by suggesting that mathematics may provide access to reality as it exists independently of thought, thus offering a speculative foundation for scientific knowledge. Time Without Being presents a rigorous defense of speculative materialism and a powerful challenge to contemporary anti-realist philosophy.